Dr. Edwin Moses, thank you so much for coming here and speaking with us. We are talking about 2024 Summer Games in Paris. You, of course, are a gold medalist yourself. Can you talk to me a little bit about looking to 2024 compared to when you were running? How has the sport changed?
The sport has changed internally. When I was running in my era, track and field was the biggest sport in the world. With Formula One, we were like the soccer players of today, walking on the streets in Europe. It's a little bit more reduced, but the Olympic Games is always exciting no matter where it is. I've been to so many of them, and there's always the typical complaints about the city, and they're finding fossils and bombs and water and cooling. There's all these different issues, but at the end of the day, once it starts, all of that just evaporates.
As an athlete, and like you said, the Olympic Games is going to be a spectacle no matter what, but there are so many other meets, so much training leading up to the games that we're seeing these young people go through day by day. You have a meet yourself right here in Atlanta, right? What do you see when these athletes are preparing to hopefully have the chance to get on that Olympic stage one day?
Well, the track meets are just the tiniest fraction of it. I ran 15 or 20 track meets a year, but I trained 9 months to run 20 or 30 meets, to run 20 meets, and that's 47 seconds. So I'm doing 15 minutes of work on the track and training for the whole year. So it's very, very intense. Very little room for margin in track and field. If you're not starting out at 98% in good condition, good health, everything's proper, your technique is good, then you're not going to win at track and field. It's thousands of seconds sometimes. So it's very intense. So the athletes that do track and field are very, very different from basketball or football or baseball because there's no timeouts, you know, there's no coaching in between, and you're going to be tired. So that separates track and field athletes from everyone else. It's a very intense sport, very different.
Has anything changed from the sport that you're seeing in these athletes that are running now than the athletes that you ran against? I think the social media aspect of it has changed. Some events, the times are the same as they were running even 50 years ago with Tommy Smith. He ran a 19.8 seconds on a track that was super inferior to what they have today. But the young guys today think that they're inventing a new holiday when they run that kind of time. Even in my event, I could have placed second place in the Olympic trials this year with the times that I ran 40 years ago. So that aspect of it has changed. The marketing has really changed, but the relative times have not really changed. In some events, they have really changed, especially the women's hurdles, 100 meters, 400 hurdles. The men's high hurdles is pretty much where it was 20 years ago. There's one or two really, really fast times, but everyone else is generally within the same block that we were running 15, 20 years ago. There's just a lot more hype. That's really interesting. That's really interesting.
There's a lot more hype.
Looking at our Georgia athletes that are going to Paris, a lot of people either ran at a school here, came from high school, middle school, now are running at other universities. Who do you have your eye on for those Georgia athletes that are going to be competing over in Paris?
I don't know a lot of them by the state of Georgia, but Jasmine Jones in the 100 meter hurdle, it's going to be a really, really good race. She's got a lot of really good competition. There's a couple of girls that ran really, really fast this weekend from the Netherlands, around the same that she ran at the Olympic trials. The Olympic team is very, very strong. There's a girl from Dominican Republic who's super strong. So, and a couple of the girls in her event, some of the best got left behind. The two women that were going to make the team, they didn't even make it.
Talking about surprises, Christian Coleman was a really big surprise when we saw his trials. What did you think when you saw that race?
I knew it was going to be tough for him because these young guys and these kids coming out of college, they've been running twice as many races over a 3 or 4 month span, NCAA competition, and when they get out there, they're really lubricated, they're in condition, they're used to high level competition, multiple rounds, and so it wasn't surprising to me that that he didn't make it. Also in the 800 meters, I think Mu fell, took a tumble in the track and field in the 800 meters, and that's quite common. It happens all the time.
Just one small mistake, like you said, no timeouts, no halftime.
As we say, no harm, no foul. And we used to call the Olympic trials the meet of tears and cheers. Half of them are cheering, most of them are cheering. It's very intense.
It's only a handful of spots.
I want to ask you just about the venue in Paris, the athletes going over there. You said you are no stranger to Paris itself. How does this stage compare to, obviously Tokyo was much different. There was nobody there. So those athletes that ran 4 years ago, they're going to be met with a little different sights and sounds this year.
Yeah, I think it's going to be different for the athletes that ran in Tokyo that didn't have spectators. It depends on, as an American, it depends on where you live. If you live on the West Coast, then Paris is 9-hour time change. If you live here, it's 6. So that 3 hours is a major difference in when you need to get there on site and get a training place, acclimatize, get used to the food.
How long does that typically take?
An hour per day. So if you're from LA going to Paris, you need 10 days, really 2 weeks to really get your body to be normal again.
I never thought about that. That's really interesting because you got to have the same, you don't want anything holding you back to make sure
your metabolism just, you don't want to, if you run in China and you come from New York, essentially you're running and the meet is 8 o'clock in the evening. You're running, getting out of bed at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning to go run track. It's totally flipped 12 hours.
I want to ask you about this. Speaking of the changing climate on social media, I have been on social media watching a couple of different athletes. And one thing that I noticed that is really interesting, you have athletes that are either represented by a team or a company. You have those that are in school, but then you have athletes that are independent trying to give themselves care and they're not sponsored by anything like that. How can those athletes have a fair shot at winning and getting on a podium than those who have those teams behind them?
If you have a shoe contract, you're pretty lucky. You don't have to worry about work. You could probably have a nice car. You can pay your rent. If you have hospitalization or a health care plan through some of these big companies, then you're set. And if you don't, you don't. But that's the way track and field has always been. When I was running, if you weren't in the top, as an American, if you weren't one of the top 3 Americans in your event, knowing that there's athletes from all over the world that have to get on the track too in a European meet, then you're not gonna be able to make any money and run. So that's the nature of track and field. And unfortunately, the athletes haven't decided to start a union. They've been talking about it for I've been talking about it for more than 40 years, but the athletes don't have the power of a players union behind them to make sure that they get paid, negotiate TV contracts, and work specifically on behalf of the athletes, not a federation or sponsors. So that's what's choked track and field for the last 30 years.
I was saying, this is something that you said you've been working on. Do you see it happening? What would it take to make that become a reality?
It would take the athletes willing to say that we want to have a union and we want a part of the TV rights, have legal representation, have a system put in, an infrastructure sit in, and they're going to have to pay for it or sacrifice some way for it. It doesn't just happen overnight. It's not going to happen unless the athletes definitively take charge. And as far as I can tell, the athletes are always hesitant because the immediate loss doesn't seem to be worth the risk to them to make a sport better. When I was running, tennis was not as organized as it was now. I think in Wimbledon they were making $600,000 or $800,000 for the winner. Now it's like 5-10 million, men and women. But they organized and we didn't.
Oh. Yeah. So maybe it could come in the future.
It could come, yeah.
I want to bring things back to Atlanta and just talk about the meet that you have here. Year after year, you see these young runners get on the track and put their all, some of them making it to that Olympic stage. How important is it to have something here where you got your roots, at least on the professional stage of track and field?
Atlanta is a big track town. The state of Georgia is huge in track. We've got Olympians from University of Georgia. You've got a ton of high school kids that are really top recruits going to all the major schools. A lot of them make the Olympic team. Like every year, there's a lot of athletes from Georgia. So outside of the college track meets and the professional track meets, you have to have access to competition. And nowadays what's happening is the meets are kind of thinning out the events. They might not have a ladies long jump or a triple jump, or they might not have a pole vault. So it's important to have more meets so athletes can compete. What I heard this year was athletes needing qualifying times, and then all these meets have them locked out. So I was just lucky this year to partner up with a guy named Paul Doyle and put my name on the track meet. And fortunately, after years of work, we had a track at Morehouse that was just sitting there ready to go. So we were lucky to be able to put that together. And we had a lot of world-class athletes. I think 8 or 10 Olympians that were at the track meet that actually made the Olympic team. Yeah. So that's what we hope to do. And track and field, fortunately, is a sport in which you don't have to have all that infrastructure. If you can perform, put a program together, have good coaching, you can run your way onto the Olympic team, aside from all the amenities that they may have at any other school or any other place. And that's the beauty of track and field. That's what I did. We didn't have a track at Morehouse.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. No.
How was it? How was it running like that with no
I was
track?
jumping fences every day, like going all around the city every day, jumping fences. And that's what I wanted to do. I loved the sport, and really kind of threw everything together. And I was talented enough to be able to survive with very, very little, which made me tougher later on. That's why I didn't lose, because I didn't need a lot to win. I was used to having nothing. So once I started winning, I really became addicted really quickly to it. And I didn't need a lot of infrastructure. We didn't have weight rooms. We didn't have swimming pools. We didn't have whirlpools. We didn't have physical therapists, anything. Wow. So the will to run and the will to compete is really what track and field is about. So you have to give everyone the opportunity.
Speaking of that, Will, I want to ask you about your mental state that when you prepared to go to your meets. What was your routine, that 24, 48-hour periods before you were racing?
For an Olympic Games, it started probably a week to 10 days before the mental preparation, and also physical preparation. For example, if you're running on a day like today in Atlanta, where it's, low 90s and high humidity, you have to really get your body to transition to different types of foods that you can digest. You're not as hungry, you have to drink a lot, and you have to get the right mixture. At least that's what I did. And it takes about a week to wean yourself off of like normal food. I couldn't eat a lot of meat, so I ate only the things that digested well, the protein, carbs, fat, stayed away from everything else, and drank a lot of liquids. So when it was over, if I ran yesterday, Sunday, after 3 days in a row, I wouldn't be able to eat like a solid meal until like Wednesday or Thursday. Wow. Because that way all my energy sources were firing at 100%. Hormones, adrenaline, all that stuff was just like at 100%. Wow. Peak performance.
That's fascinating.
So a lot of people don't do that, but I knew that that was important for me.
And that's what worked for you.
That's what worked for me.
Looking ahead at those who will be competing in Paris, a word of advice, if any of them happen to hear this interview, what is your advice to them as they?
Don't go to the disco in the Olympic Village. Don't even, the food that they have is fantastic. The French are good for food. They'll have all kinds of food 24 hours a day, and you can literally party and eat your way out of a medal. Yeah.
So do that after.
Do that after. There's 11,000 athletes in the village, and it can be like party like 1999 every day that you're in there. And a lot of people aren't focused, can't handle the pressure. They meet people, people between 15, 16, and 35, 40. It's quite an atmosphere, but that happens to a lot of people.
You got to be heads down until game day.
Heads down.
Wow, wow, wow.
And the small things get you. It's the little things. Staying up a little bit too much at night. Maybe your room, your dorm situation is a little bit louder than you want. You're not in your own bed. You might be in a small apartment with 6 or 8 people that you're not used to being around. You're used to being at home and private. All of those activities really affect you. They really, really can. So the nuances and the people who win the gold medals are really the ones who can deal with a lot of variation, a lot of variables.
Well, we are certainly hoping everybody who is going out with Georgia hits that podium.
Me too.
Brings back that gold medal. And we hope to see you in Paris.
I'll be there. I'll be there.
Thank you so much for coming in.
You're welcome.
We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.